All right, so this is the second video in the Catholic approach to ethics or business ethics. And in the first video, talked a lot about the core principles of the Catholic approach, the main objectives that a Catholic business person is meant to achieve, and that would be contributing to the common good and respecting and enhancing human dignity. So when you ask, what is the point of business? What is a good business person from a Catholic perspective? It is to promote the common good, to enhance it, as well as to enhance human dignity. We also talked a lot in the last video, in the last section of the course, about this idea of a divided life. A divided life approach to business is not certainly what a Catholic would endorse. You're not meant to be a business person on one hand and a regular personal person on the other, and these two areas of your life completely divided, lived by separate rules, different agendas, so on and so forth. So in this video, I want to talk about, well, what is the basic valuation of business by a Catholic? Is a business good? Is business good? Or is it something fundamentally corrupt and evil? I also want to talk about the role of profit. Is profit something that is going to be looked down upon by Catholics? Is it going to be seen as an evil, as something that leads people astray, leads people away from God? And is the business ultimately about you or about something else? That's the final thing I want to talk about. So with regard to business, Catholics don't view business as evil, don't view business as fundamentally corrupted, but Catholics view business as fundamentally good. So it is a fundamental good. Now, certainly it can be corrupted, and certainly people can misuse it, but in terms of how Catholics view it, it is a fundamental good. What is the basis for saying that it is fundamentally good? You know, why don't we all be priests or something like that? Well, for Catholics, the reason that it is fundamentally good is because it fulfills and is one moment of our call to be co-creators. Just as God created the earth, shaped the creatures within it, made it productive, allowed life to flourish, so on and so forth. So we are called to be co-creators, and we can do that in very many ways. You know, as parents, as role models, as citizens, but we can also do it as businessmen and women. We are creating, we are producing something new, or producing it in a different way. And in doing that, we're fulfilling human needs. And so they're very clear in the vocation for a business leader that the vocation of a business person is a genuine human and Christian calling. Just as people are called to be priests, just as people are called, and nuns, just as people are called to be moms and dads, just as people are called to be artists, just as people are called to be teachers. People are called to enter into business. It is a vocation. It is something that God wants you to do. And why would God want you to do that? Again, it fulfills the role as a co-creator. But what are we co-creating? Well, from the Catholic perspective, what Catholics do is they harness various components of a human existence, whether it be technology or science, and they harness those things to produce goods and services that are needed by human beings. They're producing goods and services, they're harnessing these resources and human talent, and it's creating a better social whole. So it is a moment in which society works together to produce the goods and services that we need and that enhance human well-being. It also generates organizations that will last, which reduces some of the chaos in the world, some of the fluctuation, some of the uncertainty. So by building a business, by building something stable, one produces not only a source of employment, not only a source of goods and services to consumers, but it produces something that can be a pillar in the community. It produces something around which people can orient their lives. And so again, business is fundamentally good. It can be corrupted, but in its essence, in its true form, it is good. Okay, so then what becomes of the role of profit? Is profit evil? Is profit something that is necessarily tempting us, degrading us, corrupting us? And the answer to that, from a Catholic perspective, is no. Profit can become bad when it becomes our sole motive, when it becomes the ultimate end, when it becomes the point of why we are doing what we're doing. If that is the fundamental objective, then yes, it does become a corrupting influence. The Catholic Vocation for Business Leader pamphlet describes it by using a metaphor. It says, as human beings, we need to eat. So profit is necessary for business. If you are unprofitable, if you are constantly losing money, you can no longer be business. So there's no point in pretending like profit isn't important. However, it is not, again, the ultimate point, the highest purpose, the ultimate marker of success. Because just like human beings need to eat, we can't live without eating. Just as a business can't exist continuously without profit. But the whole point of life isn't simply to eat. And neither is the whole point of business simply to make a profit. What profit does show is that the business is functioning well. It means it's using its resources adequately. It means it's not wasting those resources. And it means it's providing a good or service that is desired and or necessary to consumers. It's providing something that they want and something that they need. And in that way, the business, by being profitable, is showing that it is harnessing these resources efficiently in bringing to bear to the market a good or service that consumers are asking for, that they want, and that ultimately, hopefully, they need. Okay, so again, profit is bad when it's the master, but when it's the servant, when it's a function of a business that is oriented to a higher good, and then profit is acceptable and legitimate and to be celebrated. Okay, what are some of the implications of a Catholic approach to business? I want to mention two right here. One is this idea that work is for man and not man for work. So what does that mean? It means that business, of course, is a good, as I've already mentioned. Business can be a vocation. It's something we're called to do, something we can be fulfilled by, something where our unique talents and skills are allowed to flourish and help bring to bear something that contributes to society. But the point of life ultimately isn't simply to work, it's to become closer to God. And if business is not helping us do that, then business, at least the one we're in, or at least the company we're in, is misguiding us. And it's something that we need to get out of. So the whole point of life isn't to work. The point of life is to grow closer with God, and business can be a way in which we do that. It can be a way in which we work with others to provide something that enhances the well-being of our fellow men and women. And in that way, certainly it is a component of us developing our relationship with others and ultimately our relationship with God. But when it becomes simply the point of our lives, when it dominates our lives completely, when all we do is work, when all our value and self-esteem comes from work, well, then in that case, what we have is a situation in which work has become dominant, in which we have been made for work. We kind of have devoted ourselves, given ourselves up to work. And that is not going to be a good thing. And it's not going to be a good thing if a company simply uses us or assigns us trivial tasks or something not important, or doesn't kind of recognize what we have to offer uniquely. And doesn't look and see how can I best recognize, utilize, and help develop this individual's skill and this individual's intellect and this individual's character. When a business does that, then business helps us develop as a human being. And again, it's not simply like we're a tool to be used and discarded. It's not simply like our life is only there to produce a product. And we're meant to have some say. This is the principle of subsidiarity, the principle of Catholicism, where you want to try to get as much input from your employees, from the people working on the project, from the individuals who are part of your company as possible. You want them to govern as much as possible. You want them to have as big of a voice as possible. And again, that is recognizing our individual talents. It's recognizing our inherent dignity. That's recognizing our freedom and our ability to contribute. Okay, so again, the point here would be we are not simply made to work, but work is part of a broader effort to enhance our relationship with God and to become better people. The last point I want to mention here, in terms of an implication of the Catholic approach, is that business leaders should see themselves as servants. Fundamentally, they are there for others. And think about how this is different from certainly a Machiavellian view, where the whole point is gaining and maintaining personal power. The whole point is to become bigger than others, to dominate others, to make sure that others serve you. And for the business approach in Catholicism we're talking about here, the point is that it is focused on others. Business is not there to dominate. It's not there for you to become a CEO. That's not the point. It's not there for power over others. It's not there to dominate the market share. We are there to serve others. And when business recognizes that and is devoted to that, when it recognizes that it is called to be part of this human experience and to make this human experience better,